Alright, the GP9 locomotive, General Electric GP line locomotive operating manual. Section 2, the operation successful, the dependable operation of the locomotive depend on the quality of the inspection repair of the regular maintenance periods as well as the proficiency of the operating crew of the supplement of the regular terminal maintenance. A brief service check should be and by the engine crew upon boarding the locomotive. Basic information. 200. When boarding a locomotive with the ground inspection locomotive exterior with the running gear, check the fuel, oil, water, air leaking from the locomotive, loose and draining parts of proper position, angle, cock, shut-off valves, observe brakes, cylinder piston trouble, if the brakes are set, if the brakes shoe, then drain condensation for the main reserve, the set number 2 reserve, main reserve, adequate fuel supply should be in the fuel tank with length, adequate fuel supply showing the fuel tank full length of the sight glass, proper connection of the air hose, jumper, cable leaf, multiple unit operation. Alright, engine room inspection, long hood end if the diesel engine still is stopped. See 201, 202 with the starting instruction of the diesel engine. Check with the lubricating oil supply with the diesel engine. Cover the air compressor, lube oil pressure gauge, diesel engine, lube oil pressure gauge. Fuel on the fuel return sight glass. Check for the oil and water fuel leaks. Engine cooling water level in the supply tank. Drain condensation number 1 main reserve sump tank. Close air box, drain valve. C operation of cab inspection check. Control on the fuel pump with electrical running circuit breakers must be in the on position place. Throttle in the idle and reverse level of the neutral. Select for the number 1 position. Check the position. Automatic independent brake valves. Apply locomotive brakes. Brake pipe cutout valve should be cut in. Rotary air valve. Locomotive equipped with a 24R brake. 24RL brake should be passenger or in the freight position depending on service required. If the engine stop, place isolation switch and start. See arts 201, 202 with the engine starting. Instruction engine with the place of the isolation switch and run. Place the headlight control switch in single unit with the position proper to control position with the operating of the multiple unit. A9. Use the selector switch to proper position. Equip with the dynamic braking. 9. In electrical cabinet, all fuses must be securely in place of all knife switches closed with the circuit breakers or should be in the on position. Check with the steam generator, water supply, and remote water level gauge. 11. If the engine is running, check the battery ammeter. D. Trailing cab inspection, multiple unit operation. Check with all circuit breaker with the engine control station should be in the on position. Throttle level should be in the ideal selector lever in the on position. Reverse level to remove with the control stand. Independent brake valve should be in the release position. Automatic brake valve should be in the running position. Locomotive equipped with 24RL brake would be or lap position. Locomotive equipped with the 6BL brake. Rotary valve locomotive equipped with 24RL brake should be properly in the lap position. Brake pipe cutout cock should be in the trailing 6BL and out in the 24RL position. Engine stop and place isolation switch and start at the arts of 201, 202 for the engine starting. 7. In reverse level, but it must be in the neutral. 8. With the engine control station, play with the control fuel pump and engine run circuit on the on position. Note, when operating a GP9 lead unit with a multiple with the order type unit equipped with the engine run circuit breaker with the engine run circuit breaker on the lead GPN must be on to the start of the keep of the fuel pumps on the trailing older type units running. Check the PCS light, but it should be off. The test of the water accumulation engine cylinders. Remove the 400 amp starting fuse. Open the engine cylinder test valve. 3 full turns. Check the filling. C. Figure 2-1. Manual lay shaft over lay shaft lever cylinder test valves. C. Rotate the engine at least 1 complete revolution by using the engine turning jack with the watch the cylinder of the test valve of the engine if it is being rotated with the water of the discharge from the test valve of the do not attempt the start of the engine until the cause of the water accumulation has been correctly checked. Close the cylinder test valves. Replace 400 amper starting fuse. 202. Starting the engine. After completing the items mentioned in Article 201, the engine started by performing the following checks. Following steps. Check with the fuel flow with the roof of the return fuel sight glass on the fuel filter mounted on the front engine. 2. Check the position overspeed trip. Check with the position with the governor low oil trip button. Show the low oil button push button itself. Fuel return sight glass overspeed trip and fuel check valve figure for 2-2. With the isolation switch in the start position, press in the engine start button and hold it until the engine completely starts, not in over 15 seconds. After the engine starts, check the lube oil pressure check with the ground relay action. Ideal engine operating until the temperature becomes normal. Section 3. If the trouble is experienced with the starting of the engine, 2 out of 3. Placing an engine online. 4. Engine man can control the speed of the engine with the throttle lever. The engine must be placed in the line and the engine run circuit breaker must be on the on position. After the oil pressure button After the oil pressure has been built up, the engine is in place online with a meter merely placing the isolation switch in run position. 2. If the engine has been taken off the line and for any reason do not play for it in online if the locomotive is being operated in dynamic braking. 204. Figure 2.2 shows the starting engine, placing engine online. 204 is to stop the engine. There are 3 ways to stop the engine. These are designated: 1 normal, 2 under power, and 3 in emergency. Normal, stop the engine applied with the locomotive with the standing still and indicate the place of the locomotion. In this case, the place of the isolation switch, which is in the start position, press in the on stop button in the electrical cabinet until the engine stops. Under power, dynamic brakes or whatever necessary for the engine can be taken off the line by pulling with the engine manual lay shaft closed until the engine stops. Figure 2.6. After the stop engine, place isolation switch in the start position. So show that stopping the engine has a stop and start when the isolation switch start and run. Show the layover last shift in figure 2.6. In all emergency, all engines online with the simultaneously stop by with depressing the emergency stop button on the end of the throttle lever and the 2.7 and pushing the throttle lever the far as forward as possible to stop the position. 2.5. Securing the locomotive their layover. Place the reverse level to neutral position throttle on the idle. Place the selector level in the off position. Remove the reverse or level from control. Place the isolation switch and start and press stop button in until the engine stops. 4. Place all circuit breakers on the engine man's control and panel in the off position down. 5. Open all the knife switches, circuit with the breakers in the electrical cabinet. 6. Apply handbrakes and block the wheels if necessary. 7. Cover the exhaust stacks if there is a danger of severe rain. 8. Take the proper precautions against freezing of the cooling system water in the cold boiler. Article 221. 206. Handling locomotive. 206. Preventing precautions before moving the locomotive. Never move the locomotive under its own power without having the first observe the proper application release of the brake shoe. Check with the main reservoir and the control of the air pressure. Release handbrakes, remove any blocking of the wheels. 4. Engine cooling water temperature should be normal. 207. Handling light locomotive. When the engine is placed online, when the cab preparations complete with the locomotive is handled as follows. Move the generator field circuit breaker into on. Insert the move of the reversal lever. The desired position lever is still to be moved only if the locomotive is standing still. Place selector level in the number 1 position. Depress safety control foot pedal if used. Release the air brake when running light and open the throttle at a notch at a time. When kicking, 1 notch at a time. When kicking cars, the throttle may be advanced as far rapidly as needed. 208. Coupling with the train and pumping into the air. After the coupling over the train, shift the coupling to make sure that it is properly made. If the main reservoir pressure falls below the feed valve, setting with the breakers are cut in with the preceded valves. Place generator field circuit breaker in the opposition plate with the reverse level and neutral. Open the throttle 4, 5, and 6 notches needed. 206. Starting of the train. The starting of the train depends not only on the kind of locomotive being used, but also on the type of the length, of the weight, and the grade, and the weather condition amount of slack on the train because of the locomotive. Very high starting tractor effort. It is important that the air brakes completely released before the attempting to start with the train. Actual test has shown that a 100-car train has the average of uniformly distributed leakage may require 9 minutes for the complete release of the brakes. If it requires approximately 30 minutes of the 130-pound main reserve pressure, complete charge is depleted air system on the similar 100-car train. The load indicating meter figure 2A can be the pull meter of the traffic attractive effort over the locomotive. Merely looking at the ground and listening to the engine exhaust may give the false indication of a locomotive drawbar or pulley. The GP9 is designed to have the comparatively rapid yet smooth build-up of the power load regulator. Your timing is quite fast for the moving minimum, maximum somewhat slower, maximum to minimum due to the special design of the pilot valve bushing of the governor. With this arrangement, the power build-up equal to the throttle position very quickly to obtain any further and show the load indicating meter in amperes and DC. Any further advancement of the throttle is accompanied by the almost immediately additional increase of power. This may seem to observe the speed which the load indicator meter reads when the throttle advance. When the power control is type rate with the extent of the power buildup is largely for the desired over the engine man, yet still considered the load regulator engine governor. When ready to start the following general procedure recommended with place selector level to number 1 position, move the reverse to level the desired direction. 2. Place foot, safety control, foot pedal, dead man, release the brakes. 3. Open throttle 1 notch every 1 to 2 seconds as well. To run 1, note load meter pointer, start with moving to the right. 2. B. To run 2, note the engine speed increase. And the easiest and easy starting place for the locomotive may start with a train and run 1 or 2. To run 3 or higher, experience and the demands of the schedule will determine this for the ultimate until the locomotive moves. 4. Reduce throttle 1 more notch for the accelerator is too rapid. 5. If the train is stretched for the advanced throttle as desired. Note, if the wheel slip indicator flash continuously reduce the throttle 1 notch and apply sand needed to prevent the slipping, the reopening of the throttle rail conditions improves even the Article 210 of the automatic sanding and power. Although it is generally unnecessary to take slack when starting, there will be a case where why to do so with making sure that all the brakes are relieved. The throttle should be opened with a notch at a time when starting with the train. Our tonnage train should be with the low throttle position as possible, bearing in mind the speed of the locomotive that must be kept in the minimum until the train has been shredded. Sometimes it is advisable to reduce the throttle notch or the movement of the locomotive begins to move in order to prevent stretching the slack too quickly. With the engine room, engine man must be judged for the acceleration of the condition under which the train is being started. When the locomotive has moved far enough to completely stretch the train, the throttle may be advanced quickly. The desired should be done to advance so quickly that slipping result from smooth acceleration is obtained by opening the throttle 1 notch at each time when the pointer of the lead load meter begins to move to the left. 210 automatic sanding power. The GP9 locomotives are equipped with the automatic sanding power and the sanding power to assist the control wheel slip. The operating transition 1 is starting of the train sanding automatically takes place while slipping in its creep into the initial stage. In this manner, the wheel slip is anticipated to prevent before the acceptable loss for the tractive effort occurs. Transition 2, 3, and 4. Some of the occasion of the transition 1 automatic sanding call for the wheel slip is accompanied by the production of the main generator output. Duration sand after the wheel slip of the creep that stood in control the setting of the time delay standing relay. On the off switch for the door breaker of the switch engine control panel cuts in and out with the sanding power and feature. With an automatic mode for sanding feature for the cut into the automatic sanding circuit breakers in the opposition throttle reduction avoid repeated wheel slip of the rail, leaving the necessary for the also manual operation sanding sanders by engine at points road where slippage is likely to occur will be eliminated. 211 acceleration of the train after the throttle is in the 8th notch. The train begins to accelerate, indicating meter point with the wheel slowly to the left. The forward back transition will automatically take place with the attention from the part of the engine man and other necessary throttle reductions to keep under any speed restrictions. 212 slowing down because of the grade. The train slows down with the grade pointer of the indicator meter will move slowly toward the right. With the backward transition will take place automatically. 213 locomotive operation very slow speeds. The operation of the GP9 locomotive regards for the gear ratio is not governed by any specific short time ratings. In most cases, the locomotive may be operated up to the limit of the adhesion and attainability. GP9 locomotives pulling tons trains at very slow speed, but they should be operated with the throttle run with the 8 position. In the event of the wheel slip, the indicator of the wheel slip light flashes on the locomotive wheel slip control system automatically applies sand into the rails. Auto sand and circuit breakers on the opposition and reduce the power to point with the slipping stops. The continuous wheel slipping on the sand occurs due to unusual rail operation condition. Throttle can be reduced to usually circumstance with the GP9. It can be operated with the reduced throttle, provided not necessarily reduced below with the 5th throttle. With this to correct with the continuous wheel slip. If there are any questions about the unusual operation locomotive, the brake and passenger locomotive operating in freight service, the electric motive will upon request analyze the actual operation, make specific recommendations. Air braking with power. Method of handling air braking equipment to the left of the decretion with the individual railroad help by braking with the power with the most. Remember that for any given throttle position, the drawbar rapidly increases the train speed decreases. This pull might become great enough to depart with the train and left of the throttle if the reduce the train speed drops. So if the pull of the locomotive is indicated by amperage of the load meter, the engine man can maintain a constant pull on the train during the slowdown. Keep the head of the amperage of the load meter the accomplished for the reducing the throttle and notch whenever the amperage of the starts to increase. It is recommended that the independent brakes be kept fully released during the power braking. The throttle must be and idle before the locomotive comes to a stop. Miscellaneous operating instructions. 215, multiple unit operation. GP9, you with the multiple unit, each over the GP7 units. Operating control locomotives are set up with the line. Article 2 and 17 with set up with the multiple unit operation. Following the operation conditions should be observed. If the units consist of a different gear, the ratio of the locomotive should be operated with the speed except for the recommended for the unit having the lowest maximum permissible speed. If some of the units consist of the overload short time rating, the locomotive the operating should be governed by overload short time rating until they have the highest maximum permissible speed. Alright, 216, uncoupling and coupling units of locomotive. To uncouple the units, apply with the brakes closed, angle cocks, both of the apply the brakes, close the angle cocks on both units for the all air hoses, take down the power plant, jump up cables, move platform safety chains between units, brake hoses, and separate units by uncoupling. If the coupling units couple stretch unit, ensure the coupler with the lock, secure and connecting the hose and jumper to be sure that the necessary the angle cocks are open. See attached platform safety chain between units. If and even the non-operating cab, the cutout brakes placed with all circuit breakers in the engine control panel in the opposition. Move reversal level of the controller all trailing units. 217, changing operating ends. When the consistent of the locomotive include with the two or more units of the operating control of the following proceed with the committee, followed with the change of the operating end of the opposite end. Locomotives equipped with a 24R brake, R24RL brake, if the locomotive is equipped with the electro-pneumatic brake, if the brake has been used with the chain with the brake selected for the automatic brake valve, the auto, and open the electro-pneumatic brake switch. Remember the reverser lever with the safety control foot pedal to press the automatically 20-pound brake pipe production. Move the independent brake valve handle to the release position. Observe the locomotive brakes are still applied with the release to safety control with the foot pedal closed with the brake pipe cutout cock, double-headed cock. G. Remove the rotor valve, rotor air valve with the passenger lay with the freight lab position depending on the surface required. Remove the automatic brake valve handle with the running position. Remove the handle from the brake valve. Move the independent brake valve handle into the release position, and then place all circuit breakers in the engine control panel with the opposition. Play with the handle control switch in the control position. Proceed with the cab opposite end. Check with the PC with the switch light. With the move the control fuel pump with the end engine. Run circuit breakers on the engine control panel with the on position. Any other circuit breaker that has are necessary. M and insert the reverser. Level the automatic brake valve with the independent brake valve handle. Move the rotor air valve with the freight and passenger position depending on the surface required. O. Play with the independent brake valve in the full application position. Play with the brake pipe cutout with a double heading cock, slowly pausing with the 5 to 10 seconds in the mid position. Placing selector switch in the proper position. Locomotive equipped with dynamic brake. Play with the headlight control switch in the proper control position. As ready to move the locomotive to the safety control foot pedal brake pipe with the valve brake automatic brake valve handle. Move the independent brake valve to the release position. Locomotive equipped with a 6BL brake. Move from the reverser lever, brake the full surface of the brake pipe production. Move the double heading cock the trailing 4 o'clock position. Release safety control foot pedal if used. Move independent brake valve handle to the release position. Leave the automatic brake valve handle in the lap position. Place all circuit breakers on the engine man control station off of the position. Put the headlight control switch in the control position. Proceed to the cab at the opposite end. Check with the PC switch lever. Move the control fuel pump with the engine control circuit breaker with the on position. Any of the other circuit breaker that have the necessary with the I. Insert reverse lever the brake valve handle with the independent brake valve with the full application position. Open the double heading cock with the lead. 6 o'clock position, slowly place the automatic brake in running position. Place the unit selector with the proper position and with the locomotive equipped with the dynamic brake. Place the headlight control switch in the proper control position. And when ready to move the locomotive, to press the safety control foot pedal. If you move the independent brake valve with the release position. Note the 6BL brake equipped with the safety control foot pedal with the automatic train control with the N1A with the M1A brake application valve used. 3-position brake valve cutout cock double heading cock with the mounted on the N1A brake for the application instead of the automatic brake valve with the cutout cock is accessible through the small trap door over the cab floor. 218, handling locomotive with the dead end train. Handling a locomotive with the dead end of the train. With the air brake equipment to play with the independent automatic brake valve handle with the release and running position. Respectively move the double heading cock with the cutout with the 24RL and dead 6BL position. Open the dead end Did an engine cut out calculate for the locomotive's equipped with a 2-4L brake with the move of the rotor air valve with the passenger position. Locomotive brake will now operate like that with a car and a train. Electronic control equipment to remove the reverser level from the control with the blade for the isolation switch in the start position. If necessary, keep the engine idling with the hauling of the locomotive with the control of the fuel pump. The circuit breaker that must be left on. If the locomotive is hauled in a train with an appreciable distance, the reversal switch figure 2.9 should be placed in the neutral locked in position 7 of the reverser drum switch in the neutral with the manually operating with the forward reverse magnet valve buttons. To lock the reverser in a neutral switch in neutral with the remove of the locking pin with the doing with a normal operation screw with the left hand side of the reverser housing when the reverser drum switch and neutral with the insert of the pin into the hole of the right side of the reverser housing push in all the way through the reverser switch and shaft of the screw and into the threaded hole. Show the reverser switch locked in neutral. Manual operating button, lock pin in lock position. 219, double heading. Prior with the double heading behind with another locomotive to make it a full shift with the brake with the pipe of production automatic brake valve with the close with the double heading cover the locomotives equipped with the 2-4L brake with the lead with the rotor air valve with the freight pass. Position began when the shift with the record with the return with the automatic brake valve with the running position play with the independent brake valve with the release position. Operating throttles and out is normal. But the brakes are controlled with the lead locomotive, with the engine making second locomotive, the make emergency application with the brakes head with the automatic brake valve, and may relief the locomotive brakes with the depressing with the independent brake valve in the release position. 220 operating and helper service. Because there is no difference in the trick with the operating a GP9 and it is a helper or with a helper. In most cases, the GP9 can be operated with either shift with the limited with the adhesion and attainability with the throttle can be reduced with the prevent excessive whip and wheel slip. The locomotive should not be operated with the below fifth throttle position. If the other diesel locomotive they have overload shoot with the time rating with the GP9 locomotive with the helper shift with the operation covered with a permissible length of the time. Locomotive can operate with short time rating. The throttle must be successfully reduced with the higher shorter time ratings are consumed with about the locomotive should not be operated below fifth throttle position. Obtain maximum tonnage request if there is a single application electric motive will with the upon request to analyze the actual operation makes the tonnage rating recommendation. Figure 221 freezing weather precaution. Freezing weather precautions must be taken to see that water in the locomotive does not freeze with the engine is shut down for any reason. The train line steam is not available. The entire system will have to be drained. With the steam and external source of the supply with the locomotive, the engine and steam generated down with the preventing freezing with the following valves are to be open. Engine cooling system, steam and admission for the valve, the engine cooling, water G with the valve, the toilet water tank, steam valve, steam generator, heating coil valve, water suction line valve, water tank valve for detailed instructions, section 6. Bringing freezing weather, the heating facility is not available. All the water must be drained from engine cooling system. Also, remove the pipe plug from the bottom of the right water pump housing. Steam generator, C steam generator, section 3. Steam generator, water tank, 4 toilet, water tank, 5 air system, air compressor, oil separator, sump reservoir, main reservoir, type H fill for the electric control, air regulator, electric control, air reservoir, air compressor, intercooler, air strainers. 222 operating over the railroad crossing. When the crossing railroad crossing, reduce throttle to the fifth notch before reaching the crossing. We have the reduce until all the locomotive and the units are over crossing, and this will reduce the arcing over the brush of the motor communicator. 223 running through water. Under absolutely no circumstances for the locomotive pass through water, which is deemed to touch for the bottom of the traction motor frames. While passing through water, always get to very slow speed of 2 to 3 miles per hour. Water deeper than 3 inches above the top of the rail is likely to cause damage to the traction motor. 224 reset with a new pneumatic control switch after safety control application close throttle idle with the place the automatic valve in the lap position plate foot safety control foot pedal in the use. 4. If the weight into the application pipe pressure for the normal lift in the exhaust or water for the PC switch open light. If the PC switch does not reach that itself the automatic brake valve within the lap position, move the brake valve into the running position. PC switch is properly set when the light goes out. 225 ground relay action. When it's protected with the device, the strip of the engine will not speed up when the throttle is opening. When now power will develop. Alarm bell will ring and the ground relay valve of the way on the engine control panels will be on. If the ground relay trip with the throttle with the run with the 5 or 6, engine will stop with the relay indicator with the points for the yellow dot, and when set with the red dot will be tripped to. Reset with the isolate with the engine to prep with the relay, ready set button, put with the engine online, and the relay continue with the trip of the isolate in unit. 226, the wheel slip with indication. Wheel slip with light with the flash immediately repair for the pair with the wheels have the slip of the direction of the wheel slip action. Automatically do for the applicate for the power to stop with the slip and the power with the reapply with the slipping and stop. It is generally not necessary to reduce the throttle because of the monetary wheel slip actions, and it will maybe apply with a prevent repeated wheel slip in which may occur with under extremely poor rail conditions. 227, indicating with a pair of the wheels sliding. If one pair of wheels should slide with the starting with the train with the wheel slip light with the flashing on and off with intermittently with the train speed, increase with the light with the train with a more less continuously will not go out with the throttle with the reduce with the light will go out with the throttles closed and to idle with the slipping and suspect with the engine crew should make for the immediately investigation determine the cover of the wheels may be sliding due to the lock brake, a broken gear tube, the wedge between the pinion and the gear, ring gear, etc. Repeated ground relay action accompanied by the unusual note of the continuous jumping of the equaling squealing may also indicate a secure with the traction motor trouble that should be investigated at once. If the engine must be isolated because of the repeated wheel slip of the ground relay of the action, do not allow the unit to remain with the locomotive consistent unless it is certain that all of the wheels rotate freely. 228 airbox chamber, the engine airbox with accumulation cell within 2 drain tank with the incorporated with the engine oil pan near the generator, 1 each side of the airbox chamber, the valve with the permit with the drain of these tank with the tank should be designed periodically. Locomotive standing still when the airbox drain valves are open and observe the drain with the pipe pressure. Preserve the drain pipe discharge under the locomotive to determine if there is any water except for the oil accumulation in the airbox. If the discharge is preserved with the drain pipe of the locomotive, the airbox drain valve with the clove with the accumulations valve flowing through the overflow pipe of the airbox accumulation should be investigated. Operating locomotive with the extras GP9 can be specially ordered with equipped with dynamic brakes, speed control, motor lockout switches, dual cab controls, dynamic braking operation. Dynamic brake is electrical hookup with the change of the sum of the power developed with the momentum of the moving of the locomotive, the effect with the holding of the brake, the traction motor, the aperture of the being geared to the axle, air rotating, moving the train is moving when even the dynamic brake electrical circuits are set up with the train with the traction motor into the generators, so that it takes power to rotate the generator with the action motor with the speed of the train. The dynamic brake is in effect with a very similar to the independent brake with the load indicating meter except for the purpose of the brake is only pressure gauge. Its descending grade, which the throttle of the idle position, the drawbar push of the trailing train tonnage move the locomotive forward. No restriction other than the locomotive with the wheel friction exerted again for the push for the momentum of the train with the descent of the grade would assume the speed reach the speed where the train brakes would have applied with the train brakes a resistant hold drawbar push set up with the effect of the hold for the speed of the train with the wood also application locomotive independent brake. Effective level of the resistance, slow down traction motor, armature for the being driven and the push over the train. The resistance set up within the trail with the traction motor. If the magnet field with the root of the traction motor or armature for the mass rotate with the increase of the strength with the magnitude of the field with the effect with the slow down with the traction motor armature. Holding back with the train magnet field with the connection with the traction motor field with each of the unit with the steer with the main generator of the passenger current through these field with the strength of the magnet field with the varied by varying of the main generator of the current the traction motor fields in each unit. Main generator battery field of each of the unit locomotive with consistent connected series of low voltage supply with the lead unit. This is called field loop circuit. Movement of the selector valve of the lead unit to the B maximum brake position, creep of the battery field, excitation on each of the main generator, which turn the creep of the main generator current to the traction motor field. Those that affect the strength of the magnetic field of the traction motor, the armature of the must rotate with the control of the movement of the selector lever by braking position, move the selector lever to over the B maximum position with increase the effectiveness of the holding brake. In the dynamic brake of the traction motor, armature for the connect with the grids located at the top of the car body, rotate with the armature for the magnetic field generated the braking circuit. Braking current, this current flows through the grid displays heat. Braking current generated increase with the armature rotation, increase with the momentum of the train, increase with the drawbar push with the edge to strength with the magnetic field, with the increase with the engine man advance the selector eye, and also over the B maximum position, the maximum braking current through the cram flow through the grids automatically limited to 700 amps regardless. The locomotive speed or less selector level the position opening with the dynamic brake of the locomotive to equip the proceed as follows. Position unit selector switch in figure 211 lead unit with the corresponding with the number of the units of the locomotive consists of the reverse lever that should be positioned in the different direction. The locomotive movement of the throttles must be reduced the aisle with the selector lever of the number 1 off position pause for 10 seconds before proceeding step 5 with the move of the selector of the position B position with the B position of the dynamic braking circuit are partially established depending on the speed of the train with enough of the braking and may press a bunch of slack. The position of the transfer switch or BKT Move of the brake with the position movement of the brake transfer switch to brake disconnect with the traction motor armatures from the motor field to connect with the armature with the grid. The traction motor fields of each of the unit are connected into the main chain generator. That unit with the main generator battery field with each of the unit consider the connect with the layers with low voltage supply with the lead unit. But the selector valve has moved with the BM with the B position to consider the battery field circuit. 6. After the slack is bunched, the lever may be removed with the farther right to give it the desired amount of the braking. After the speed of the diesel engine and the creep of the 270 RPM, ideal 430 RPMs, automatically selector switches move the on the B position. Observe the braking amper. Braking after the load indicator me with the braking amperage for the automatic limit with the maximum braking after the 700 RMs, but regardless of the locomotive speed of the selector handle position. 8. Maximum braking is desired, but the selector handle should be moved to the full maximum position. Selector handle should always be to move this slowly to prevent sudden surge of the current, except for the maximum brake current with the current rating. Generally, selector handle is moved slowly within the B maximum position. Brake current limiting regulator will limiting the brake current with a maximum 700 amps. No brake warning indication of excess of the brake current will be given. However, if the brake warning light flashes on movement, the selector handle should be stopped until the light goes out. If the light fails to go out after several seconds, the move selector handle toward the B position slowly. If the light goes out, does go out. After the brake warning light goes out, the selector of the handle may begin and be avoided slowly toward the full B position. When necessary, automatic brake valve may be used with the conjunction of the dynamic brake. However, the independent brake valve must be kept fully relieved whenever the dynamic brake and the wheel of the main slide. As speed is greater than below 10 miles per hour, the dynamic brake becomes less effective. When the speed further decreases, it is permissible to complete the relief of the dynamic brake plate for the selector, leveling it off the number 1 position and applying with the independent brake simultaneously to prevent the slack with running out. Note the most effective use of the dynamic brake between 15 and 25 miles per hour, depending on the gear ratio. Speeding on the grade should not be allowed with a creep up by careless handling of the brake. The effect of the holding the brake is on for the effect of the slowing down with a heavy train with a steep grade. GP9 locomotives can be operated with a dynamic brake coupled with the older units that are not equipped with the braking current limiting regulators. If all the units of the same gear ratio, they have the lowest maximum brake current. The brake rating should be played with the lead unit. Then consider the engine can be operated with the control of the braking after the limiting with the units that have the lowest speed brake of the current rating without overloading the dynamic braking system. Trailing unit locomotive consider the must always be operated not exceed the braking current of the unit have the lowest maximum current rating. Units equipped with the dynamic braking current limited regulated if they operated multiple GP9 locomotive with the dynamic braking regardless of the gear ratio, the difference of the maximum braking current ratings. Units equipped with not equipped with the dynamic braking current ratings, limiting regulators, different gear ratio for the equipped with a special operating instructions to limit the multiple with the GP9 locomotive dynamic brake selector switch with the dynamic brake selector switch figure 211 located at the engine man control station 4 position 1, 2, 3, and 4 should be correspond with the number of the units of the locomotive and consider the switch should be set before the leaving the terminal. It must not be changed even if the locomotive is isolated within route. The switch of the change only if the number of the units locomotive consists of being changed. Figure 211 shows unit selector switch. 231 dynamic brake warning light. 212 dynamic brake grid blower. 231 dynamic brake warning light. The dynamic brake for the wheel slip light with the engine control panel. Also, you would indicate except for the braking current with the generally with the overcurrent, only with the temporary with the dynamic brake current with the limiting regulator will the automatically reduce the braking current with the maximum 700 amps. 232 dynamic brake grid blower. The grids are cooled with the motor driven fan figure 212 with the grid fans are located with the top of the car body directly above the center of the engine. Power generator above the number 1 3 end traction motor move with the grid blower motor. 233 dynamic brake wheel slip speed control with the relay with the correct wheel slip while under power with the U with the correct with the tendency of the one pair of the wheel rotate with the slope of the dynamic brake due to the unusual rail conditions. When a pair wheel is deflected, the tend to rotate with the slower speed with the retarding after the traction motor with the unit effective with the reduce with the main generator. Fuel excitation required with the unit effective with the hand with the automatically applied with the rail with the automatic standing circuit brake with the engine control panel with the number must be in the opposition. When the retarding effort with the traction over the unit with the reduce the tendency over the wheel, the swivel rotates slow with them overcome. After the wheels late, resume the normal rotation. The retarding effort with the traction motor return to the increase of the former value. Automatic setting contained with approximately 26 after the wheel sleep is corrected. 234 hum speed control. When you use the electrical hum speed with the control circuit with the control of the position load regulated with the bare vibe control of the excitation main generator. Hum speed control shown in figure 213 maximum performance during. Figure shows hum speed, the increase or decrease of the hum speed and the humping in the normal voltmeter. Humping operation open throttle with the maximum position when the station with the bunch, the slide with the move with the cutout with the cars after the hum. Assume the time of the distance from the permanent load regulator reef with the balance position from the full loading with the throttle position. Move with the toggle switch. Figure 213 normal to the hum position. Voltmeter with the hum control panel to show the amount of excitation voltage of the main chamber as the cars are pushed over the hump and cut off the train load and less than a small instrument with the total starting load. Power probe locomotive according to the reduced small increment to avoid the successful create speed to accomplish from the monitor with the pressing the decrease button condition dictate the noted voltage shown with the voltmeter will eventually decrease with a certain less than 10 volts minimum should be speed with the become acceptable even with the decrease button. Press voltage minimum of less than 10 volts reduce with the throttle to one or more notches. For this, it must be seen with the combination of the throttle, 7 the engine, RPM, and apply with the voltage main generator excitation, voltage that will produce the power to move the power. Train locomotive power can be reduced with the reducing throttle setting and how with the reducing power with small increments better suited to the operating condition. Peculiar humping strip with the reducing the excitation voltage of the few volts at the time of the load lessens makes possible the fine balance between the power output and the power required actual. Operating experience may show the variation of the preceding method for the operating with the desire with the such variation of the time without placing the toggle with the switching humping with the before the operating throttle with the width of the massive load regulator restraint minimum field necessitation the use of the increase of the button the unit with the main generator power with the output sufficient to move with the train. Once again load less than with the decrease of the button with the must be with the key with the train and speed consistent. When the railroads affect with the company, specifically humping speed with the throttle position with the discuss dictated with the special starting train in the grade with the curvature hump yard lead of the approaching track. Hump control toggle switch on the control star with not being with the dead dual controls the locomotive that must be in the normal position. R235 motor lockout switch. The 4 motor lockout switch CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4. Man with the reverser of a drum. Each switch permanent for the isolation corresponding with the traction motor from the power circuit with the CO1 cuts off the traction motor number 1. And even the traction motor is ground with always isolate the engine before operating the motor lockout switch. Know that more than one traction motor should be cut out at any time. The armature of the traction motor to be cut out must be free to rotate. Alright, 236 dual cab control operation. Control for the cab to enable the locomotive to operate with the E of the control station, allowing the engine man to control the control station depending on the direction in which the locomotive is operated. 2 identical controls back brake stands are provided with the cab of the locomotive. Both of the control stations are equipped with the load indicating move with the one control stand with equipped with the speed record with the other stand with the equipped with the speed indicator. This allows the engine man to observe the speed with the E of the control stand with the locomotive equipped with the overspeed with control with the speed recorder will govern the maximum speed regardless of the locomotive with the direction circuit breaker with the 2 engine control with the control pane with the cab with the locomotive with the contracted and see with the proper circuit breaker on the both station of the must be in the opposition order to operate the locomotive to facilitate the operation of the various circuit breakers. 2 controls for the recommended of the all circuit with the breaker with the non-operating with the control station be played with the opposition of the engine. Man may determine the only with the circuit breakers of the operating control station necessary for the operation of the locomotive. The manner of the engine man will be able to instantly turn the on and off any item of the operating control station where he is located when the change of the operation of the one control stand with the other. Specifically handling the throttle selector level, the reversal level, the brake equipment, and the same with the given with the chain of the ends for the Article 217 with the following exemption of this one circuit breaker should be handled with the mention for the paragraph preceding paragraph 2 with the 2.4 RL brake with the rotary valve with not move with the E of the lap position. There's only one rotary valve with the GP7R locomotive equipped with dual control with the 6BL with the brake equipment and with the brake equipment stand with equipped with the 3 position. Double heading for the double heading competent over the non-operating control station should be played for the dead position with the 6BL. Brake equipment arranged with the shape of the control applicator. There will be only one of 3 position double heading cock located with the number N1A brake with the application valve with the cutout cock with the accessible through small trap door on the cab floor should be placed in the lead position when the changing end of the multiple unit operator for the procedure outlined in Article 217 must be followed with a completely understanding the all-circuit breaker with the dual control station placed in the off position and the unit being made inoperative. Alright, Section 3, location correction with difficulties on the road.